Hello my dear students, once again welcome to your online class. Today we will be discussing about the third topic, acid, base and the salt. So to begin with, the difference between the acid, base and the salt, it's very clear that the acids are all those substances which are sour to taste, the bases are those substances which are bitter to taste, and the salts are the compound that are formed as a result of the neutralization of acid with a base. So today we will be discussing about the acids and the base in details. So as we have already learned in our junior classes that the acids are those substances which are bitter to taste. So apart from that, the chemical position of the acid tells us that the acid, it always contains the hydrogen ion in them. So the substances that contains the hydrogen ion in them, and when dissolved in water it produces a hydronium ion, those kind of substances are said to be an acid. So some of the naturally occurring acids are as follow, and we also can see that they are obtained from the various living organisms. So acids, as discussed, they are those substances which when treated with water it gives a hydronium ion. Actually the acid, it does not contain hydronium ion, but the acid when dissolved in water it produces a hydrogen ion, and this hydrogen ion combines with the water molecule and then is converted into a hydronium ion, that is as 3O plus ions. So now it's clear that the hydrogen is common in all the acids. So now coming to the classification of acids. So the acid, depending upon its source, it can be classified as organic and an inorganic acid. So the organic acids are those acids which are produced or which are given by the living organisms, especially from the plants and the animals. Few of the examples are oxalic acid, acetic acid and the formic acid. And the inorganic acids are the one which are usually obtained from the minerals or artificially made in the lab. So such acids are said to be the inorganic acid, and usually the inorganic acids, they are a very strong acid and they are highly corrosive in nature, but whereas the organic acids, they are less corrosive in nature. So now depending upon the strength of the acid can be classified as a strong acid and a weak acid. So the strong acids are the one which are highly corrosive in nature, and the weak acids are the one which are lesser corrosive in nature. Or we can also call that the acids that produces the larger amount of hydronium ion, they are known as a strong acid, and the one that produces the lesser amount of hydronium ion, they are known as a weak acid. So depending upon whether the acid contains oxygen or not, the acids can be classified as a oxy acid. That means the acid that contains oxygen in them is known as a oxy acid, and the acid, if it does not contain oxygen, then it's known as a hydra acid. The important one is the basicity of an acid. So what is the basicity of an acid? So the basicity of an acid is the number of independent hydronium ion that is produced when one molecule of water is dissolved in water. So depending upon the basicity of an acid, the acids are classified as a monobasic acid, the dibasic acid and the tribasic acid. Now coming to the bases. What are bases? A base is either a metallic oxide or a metallic hydroxide or a ammonium hydroxide, which reacts with the hydronium ion of an acid to form salt and water. So here you need to focus on three things, that is the metallic oxide, the metallic hydroxide and a ammonium hydroxide. So all of these, they are the base, and remember all the bases, they react with the acid to produce salt and water. When we are talking about the base, we are also much interested in alkalis. Okay, so what are alkalis? So alkalis are the water soluble bases which when treated with the water produces a hydroxyl ion. Okay, so what is the basic difference between a base and a alkali? All the bases, they are not an alkali, but all the alkalis, they are a base. It's because all the bases, they are not water soluble, but all the alkalis, they are water soluble. So the alkalis are also the bases which dissolves in water to produce a hydroxyl ion. So just as an acid, the alkalis or the bases, they can also be classified as a strong alkali and a weak alkali. So the strong alkalis are the one that produces a more number of hydroxyl ion when dissolved in water, and the weaker alkalis are the one that produces the lesser amount of hydroxyl ion when dissolved in water. Now the important is, just like for the acid we call it a basicity, now for a base we call it a acidity of a base. So the bases can be categorized on its acidity. So now coming to the acidity, what is acidity? The acidity is the amount of hydroxyl ion produced when one molecule of given base is dissolved in water. So what is it? So coming to the acidity of a base, so the acidity is the number of independent hydroxyl ion produced when one molecule of water is dissolved in water. So if it produces one hydroxyl ion, it is termed as monoacidic base. If it produces two, it is known as a diacidic base, and if it produces a 3 hydroxyl ion, it's known as a triacidic base.